Hello, and welcome to the People Often Suck podcast, where we talk about the suckiest suck that currently sucks. I'm your host, Tom.
And I'm TC.
And at the end of our episodes, we're going to share uplifting stories that will bring hope back into your heart. But for now, let's start off with our first story. All right. Let's go back in the Wayback Machine.
Okay.
2019.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. It was a whole different world.
It really was, actually, when you think about it.
Yeah. It was 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So much has changed.
Yeah, not necessarily for the better, but yes, you're right.
So let me refresh your memory. You remember a small-time actor went by the name of Jussie Smollett?
Yes, he's one of my favorite TV actors of all time.
What show was he on?
Empire. Ooh, you thought you were going to catch me on that, didn't you?
Yep.
Okay, I knew what show he was on. I didn't know who he was, though. Not until
that incident, right?
that incident.
Yeah, he made his name known. So for those who, for some reason, you don't know that name,
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you. Back in 2019, Chicago, January. Okay, I've never been there, but from what I've heard, it's butt-ass cold.
Oh, yeah, it is. Trust me.
Yeah.
I
So-
was layered up one time. This is when I was out there for Disney sales. We were at a big youth symposium thing or whatever it was.
Mhm.
And I was layered up in like probably 7 different layers of clothes with a long coat and everything because I looked pretty cool back then. And had a scarf and everything. My head was wrapped up. And I remember walking out of the hotel to wait for the cab to drive up. And I instantly froze.
Yeah. I don't know why you'd want to live in that environment.
But I will tell you, there's nothing like walking down Madison Avenue at Christmas, just before Christmas, seeing all the big window displays and all that. This is when the blizzard isn't actually happening. There's snow around, but it's manageable enough to walk. And it is absolutely amazing. So that part is cool. There's a lot of really cool things about Chicago. I'm assuming this is probably not one of them.
No. Unless you think a 24-hour subway is cool.
Well, you know, when you want to eat fresh at 2 a.m., you want to have a Subway.
I mean, there's limited choices.
True. And
Well, same thing happened here
Oh.
with Jussie. 2 a.m. Subway. He wanted to eat fresh. So he goes down there, gets his little sandwich, and as he's walking back to his, I don't think it was his home, maybe it was like his friend's home, supposedly, in this blizzard, 2 guys were just happened to be walking the same path as him. And again, somehow, they recognized who he was from afar, which I've seen actors in the same room and I didn't recognize them. Now, maybe that's just me.
it is you.
But again, I didn't know who this cat was. I'd never seen Empire. Even if I had seen Empire, there's no way in heck I'd recognize him in a blizzard at 2 a.m.
He's a character actor, so it's not like he's predominantly featured, on the show. So I can understand that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, biggest fans here because these 2 guys recognized him.
Wow. Okay.
Well, they started name calling him, harassing him. And then, you know what? It escalated from there. They start shoving him and beating him.
Kind of an odd way of recognizing a celebrity you like.
And then they just happened to have some rope on him.
Oh.
And they made a noose.
Oh.
And they put it on him.
Well, let me ask. So Jesse is of a certain persuasion as far as ethnicity, correct?
He is a black man.
Okay.
And he is a gay black man.
Oh, a twofer. Got it.
Yep. So nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with that.
Apparently there was with these 2 gents. They didn't take kindly to that.
So were these 2 gents of a particular ethnicity as well, or?
Well, supposedly it was just 2 white guys wearing MAGA hats and shouting, "This is MAGA country."
In Chicago.
In Chicago, one of the bluest states.
I didn't realize that was MAGA country.
Apparently.
I'm learning something every day.
And learning is half the battle.
It is, the more you know.
So so that happened. Huge police search for these supposed 2 guys. And Chicago has quite a few street cams And they couldn't trace these guys from anywhere. They never found them.
Maybe they were covered in snow and therefore it was hard to see them.
Or maybe they didn't exist.
Hmm.
So after a long investigation, witnesses, turns out, yeah, he just made the whole thing up.
He made the whole story up.
Yeah, he tied the noose around himself. He did get Subway. That part was right.
Oh, so he did get Subway. Well, he was hungry. He was hungry while he was making up the story.
But as far as two white guys, no, there were no two white guys. It was actually two guys who were like his personal trainers.
Oh,
I think, and I can't remember exactly the country, but think like Kenya.
Oh, okay.
You know, two like well-built guys.
Got it.
In on it.
Okay.
How do we know this? Because they came forward.
Willingly on their own?
Willingly on their own.
Did anybody tell them that might not have been a good idea?
I guess they didn't cover that part of the plan, not to spill the beans.
Wow. Okay.
So this sparked all kinds of media attention about racism and homophobia and Trump supporters, and it was all made up.
Wow.
So you had all these celebrities had to jump in and get on it. It's like, oh, I support this guy, down with racism, and which, yeah, cool, down with racism, but you're also kind of backing the wrong pony in this circumstance.
Why make stories up? You know, I mean, look, we do have racism out there, you know, on all sides. There's racism that exists to this day around the world, by the way. I experienced it when I was in Hong Kong. You know, I was a Guaylo. That's a term that they call, which is the white devil.
Yeah, it blows my mind. Like, you know, when you hear about other countries, it's like, oh, it's actually not that bad here in comparison. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Another time, it's funny, these all go back to my Disney stories. I was doing a broadcast cruise down on, we were in Puerto Vallarta, and we ironically, sadly, lost our satellite for the day. We were supposed to do radio broadcasts, so we basically dismissed all of our radio stations to go and enjoy the day in Puerto Vallarta. So our group decided, well, we're going to go do ziplining. It's in the same canyon area where they filmed the movie The Predator and all that stuff. So pretty cool.
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, very cool. And
Did you get to the chopper?
yeah, I don't, that was a really bad Arnold. Anyways,
I didn't say it was good.
So we're heading down there to where this location is. And our driver, you know, this is really the first time that I experienced going further into Puerto Vallarta, you know, away from the port. And our driver, very nice guy, didn't realize just, you know, really parts of Mexico, the people, if you would call it the mainland, it's all really mainland, but the mainland that's not the peninsula, which is Baja California, they're very light toned skin color. I mean, you could easily mistaken them for just a white person back here in the United States, easily. And there's a reason why I'm saying that about the story is because as we were driving to this Predator Canyon,
that sounds so bad.
Sorry. He was talking about his fellow Mexicans who do live in Baja California as really kind of low class, beneath them human beings because their skin is darker. And I thought, wow, I mean, this is just crazy to hear this, the typical aspect that we often hear about in the United States of racism here. And I'm hearing it firsthand of this guy in his own country down in Mexico who's talking about his fellow Mexicans purely from the location of where they live. Obviously, in Baja California, there's it's drier, it's hotter. You know, it tends to be an area where a lot of them are working out in the sun more. So naturally, their skin tone tends to be darker. And yet over here in Puerto Vallarta, which is much more of a cosmopolitan, you know, city within Mexico, and this guy who's very light toned skin is making comments. By the way, not unlike the comments I heard in Hong Kong, where again, people there who live light toned skin talk about people from mainland China the same way because they tend to be darker skin. A lot of them work out in the sun. And so they also refer to it. So this is sad to hear that this was something that Jussie, had to interject about his skin color as this is what happened to him because of racism, when in fact it was actually a hoax all along. And that only stokes, by the way, people's natural reaction. We all don't want to see that happen in our country.
Right. Well, basically, supply wasn't meeting demand.
Right.
So he went and created his own. So in response to all these investigations and they kind of pieced it together like, dude, you made this up. And he kept trying to claim innocence. He cried on camera. And there was just literally no evidence to support his story. And then when you had his two trainer buddies come out and say, yeah, he paid us to do it. And they got the receipts of like the rope they bought and the hardware store they bought it at. So they've got the receipts to...
So it was premeditated.
Yeah, it was all premeditated. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to fine him, the man hours, which good, you should. And he was looking at, I believe, several years in jail and got out after a few days.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, fast forward to 2024, and a Illinois Supreme Court decided to just drop everything.
Really?
Everything. Yeah. So he's getting away scot-free. Not even having to apologize or anything.
Well, then again, one of the stories we shared previously, one of the other episodes about the girl who did the hoax, she pretty much was let out early as well. I mean, I guess hoaxsters can get out early because at the end of the day, they're not really offending anyone, even though maybe not in the particular case of the lady who faked her abduction. In your situation of the Jussie Smollett, story, he incited a lot of anger across the United States, which has a lot more impact.
Yeah, he basically just stoked the fire of division.
Right.
Yeah, lovely guy.
Well, that was a fascinating story, but mine's going to take a little bit of a different twist. So not long ago, in particular in November of 2024, in the lovely state of Florida, so we'll leave the state of California and the state of Illinois, to talk about this guy, and I'm probably going to butcher some of these names, these Florida names, but a Eustace man.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Is that right? Hopefully I got it right. Is behind bars after attacking a bunch of kids at their school bus stop.
Florida man attacks kids at school bus.
So 59-year-old Arthur James Young, kind of ironic for a last name when you don't consider him 59 as being young, attempted to run over 3 middle schoolers while they waited for their bus at around 8:30 in the morning. So according to the story, this guy first came up. He wasn't in his vehicle initially when he approached them at the school bus stop. Okay. So he is there, and he ended up kind of asking these kids some different questions. It was almost as if he was kind of trying to find out who these kids were and their background before he snapped further to do what he tried to do. And in one of the situations, so he was asking them questions before he jumped back into his vehicle, speeding towards them. He asked one of the kids, "Do you believe in God?" And the girl responded back, "Yes, sir." And then when she said that, she said, "Yes, sir," he started buffing up at me. And I'm not exactly sure what that means, but apparently he didn't necessarily like the answer. So he got back into his vehicle, which, if I remember rightly, I want to see exactly what this vehicle was. A black Dodge Ram pickup. So it wasn't like a small car. He decided then at that point that he was going to try to run over the students. So we circled around the truck 3 times as the story goes, and he kept trying to hit them. So it wasn't just one time. It wasn't until the 3 kids ran and hopped into a nearby van where a lady was there, and she sped off and took them to a grandmother's house for protection. But the story doesn't end there. He wasn't done. So after that, he happens to make his way down the street when he sees a girl that was walking towards the bus stop. And he gets out of his Dodge Ram truck and he physically grabs and attacks the girl. So she has one of those, metal like tumbler flasks, whatever you want to call it, that she's drinking water from or whatever.
Like a Stanley Cup?
Well, like, what is it called? It's
Thermos?
Yeah, like a thermos type thing or whatever. I don't know why if I say flask, I'm thinking the little girl's drinking at a young age. But anyways.
It is Florida.
It is Florida. I think it's legal. Anyhow, well, after this, I would strongly encourage it. These kids probably now need to have a stiff drink. So this man gets out to attack this girl. And so she's taking her metal water bottle and she's hitting him, to try to get him off. But this guy is like 300 pounds. So this little thing is not doing a whole heck of a lot. And eventually he pushes her down and he falls on top of her and begins choking her. This is a psycho, okay? And so immediately some bystanders who see this attack happening jump in. Somebody, again, it's Florida, concealed carry, whatever weapons law.
Yeah, America.
He shot off 2, not at him, just 2 shots as warning shots to like get him off there. I'm almost at this point thinking I'd go for an arm or something just to like weaken him and get him off of her. This didn't stop him. So they finally were able to get him pulled off of her. And in the meantime, thankfully, the police had been called. And so they got there before he was able to fully get away. And then they were able to arrest him. And they took him to, for evaluation, of course, to a nearby hospital. He had admitted to be using marijuana, which, my brother grew up having marijuana in his life. And while it wasn't always a pleasant experience with him, I never knew him to just snap and go crazy like that and start, willfully attacking children.
No, it's a downer drug. I mean, it doesn't make you do, meth activities.
No, not at all. I'm not a person who uses drugs, as you know. I will tell you that one time, my friends, we went to Knott's Scary Farm, and they, I was a little tired and all of that stuff. And so they were like, well, why don't you try an edible?
Interesting.
And I'm just going to distract our story for just one moment. And I said, well, I don't know. I've never a day in my life have taken any drugs like that. I barely even do prescription stuff. And they're like, oh, no, you'll be fine. You'll fine. Just eat half of it. So I ate half. Okay. Thought, well, I'll try it. Okay. Peer pressure. Love my friends. And And so I was going through, the different mazes and stuff, and I'm like, oh, I'm kind of feeling very relaxed, or, yeah, maybe this is great. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you know what? Let me just try the other half. I'm sure if this has made me relax here, taking the other half is going to make me even more relaxed. Okay, great. So I took it. Finished out the rest of the night, get home, and I couldn't fall asleep. It had the opposite effect of relaxing and chilling me out. And I will never do that again.
I mean, I have a friend who almost can't fall asleep without popping an
I
edible.
know friends who do that. That's right. I'm the opposite. So anyhow, a lot of times they say marijuana is a gateway drug, which is true. Again, I saw that with my own brother. And probably 2 times over, he shouldn't be alive to this day because of it. And I know we're not going to wade into whether marijuana should be a legal drug or not, but I will say that it does have impact on people as far as, manipulating their way of thinking and understanding of the circumstances around them. But I don't think marijuana would have taken this guy down to the point of literally trying to run these kids over and then attacking this girl and trying to choke her to death, okay? This had to have been more than that.
This is Florida man on marijuana and something else.
Yeah. And by the way, the neighbors in that area, they actually know who this gentleman is. And they actually say that he's generally very quiet and very nice. And, the typical when they're on the news at night and they say, oh, well, Jeffrey Dahmer always seemed like a nice boy next door. We invite him over all the time for cookies and milk, until he ate their, grandson. So I think that it's just interesting to find out. It will be interesting. I kind of want to follow the story and see what exactly made this guy snap to go to such extremes. I mean, I may not be necessarily a fan always of kids. I don't hate them, but I would never go and drive, try to drive over them or even go and stop and talk to them at a school bus stop.
Yeah, that was the first red flag for me was
exactly.
Man gets out of car and approaches children at bus stop. I'm like, this is not going to end well.
Why are you talking to these kids that you have nothing to do with?
Yeah. You believe in God? Yes, sir. Yeah, how would you like to meet him?
Apparently that wasn't the answer that he liked or whatever. So he got in and decided to try to mow them over.
Well, I don't approve.
Well, after those 2 stories of true POSs, here is a very happy story that shows that mankind can actually do something positive. This time around, though, helping out a poor dog that couldn't help herself. A couple in Arkansas have really gone out on a limb and have put themselves into a financial situation in helping out this poor little snickerdoodle? That's what they're called?
I love that.
Yeah. So as the story goes, this was on Halloween Day. I believe it was in 2024, Halloween Day. Dylan McKay was leaving work, and he had noticed there was a Facebook notice about this golden doodle that had been left on the side of a road, apparently injured near his home. So as he was heading home, he started to look for her in particular after seeing this message, and he found her, and she was still laying there on the side of the road. It was very apparent to him that she had been struck by a vehicle in a hit and run situation. Now, we don't know, in all fairness, we don't know if the driver knew that they had hit this dog or not. If they did, then they should be on the POS side of our storyline, but we don't know that. So, and it had been raining that day, so it was wet out. So when he showed up, this is kind of gut-wrenching. This dog was literally, her back legs were completely, she couldn't move at all. She tried to crawl towards him to lay her head on his lap. And so realizing that he needed to get her up off the road quickly and get her to help was the next best thing. There was another motorist who had pulled over and saw what was going on. And so they had gathered up towels and blankets that they had in their vehicles, and they wrapped her up in it. And then Dylan took her then to the vet. And she never whined. She never growled. She didn't do anything. And I think, honestly, she probably knew that, somebody was there to help her, which is, pretty awesome. As they're at the animal hospital, or Dylan is actually, they found no microchip, so they had nothing that would connect her to anyone in particular. So don't know how she belongs to anyone. I would imagine snickerdoodles are usually not random strays out on the street. But at least as of this moment in time of doing this podcast, we don't know. No one has come forward to claim her or anything like that.
I will claim her.
Well, you'd have to go to Arkansas in order to get the dog.
Done.
So while he was there, his fiance found out that he was at the animal hospital, so she raced on over to be with them. And what they found out from the vet was that both legs were broken. Both back legs were broken. Possible infection, of course, fleas. No shocker. So obviously the dog had been outside, probably running around for a little while.
Yeah.
So they were quickly cleaning her up, getting her somewhat comfortable, getting her fed and things like that. So the next day, the veterinarian doctor had mentioned that there's a possibility that one of the legs would have to be amputated. So this is racking up the bills, okay?
Right.
And because there's no owner that has been called out in owning this dog, the vet said, it's going to fall on you guys if you are taking ownership at the moment of this dog. And they both, Dylan and his fiance both talked about it and realized there's no way in the world that they're going to let this dog die. Okay, put her down, anything. So they drained out their wedding fund and whatever funds that they had in their savings account to cover the vet bills. These are amazing people. And the vet said that if they truly had to amputate the leg, that they would have to drive a 10-hour drive to the Mississippi State University in order for them to perform this surgery. Thankfully, the doctor realized at some point that there was no need for the amputation to happen. And they were able to save both legs and do the operation on the legs to do whatever they needed to do. And so the dog has survived and is doing quite well. In the meantime, there was a GoFundMe account that was set up, and they were able to exceed the amount of money that they had put as a goal on there. Not the entire amount of money. This couple spent $39,000.
For a dog they didn't own.
Right. So anyhow, I think that at the end of the day, there's not a picture of the couple, but there's a picture of the snickerdoodle, which you've seen. And I know you told me that you don't like necessarily to see or whatever the before pictures of animals or videos. And I'm with you. I hate that too. I would rather see the after effect of them being happy and running around and all of that. And there isn't that picture. There's only the picture when they had brought her in on the blankets and stuff. And you can see in the picture, her back legs are bloodied. She looks like a mess. And, but you can also see in her face that she definitely is just looking for help. And she found her little angel that day in Dylan, who rescued her. And then Dylan and his fiance ultimately, coming through with covering the vet bills to take care of her and give her a new lease on life. So how do you feel about that, Mr. Animal Lover?
Well,
Because you have a four-legged fur ball at home as well.
yeah. And, we had to go through some hospital incident with him too. And when it came down to it, I didn't even hesitate. It's like, no, we're going to pay for it. I'm not putting him down. I'm not disowning him. He's ours. We're going to pay.
They're part of your family.
Yeah. So props to not just that couple, but props to everyone that donated to that GoFundMe, because that's awesome too. And I do appreciate a lot of these GoFundMe type things where it's like, stories like this, like real stories like this, where people really could use their help, and a couple dollars here and there add up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Literally a cup of coffee to you or me, it all adds up.
Right.
So,
and to this couple that I'm sure is still going to get married at some point, but they took what they were saving up. And I'll tell you, I have friends, in the Midwest and stuff, they don't easily come by money from a parent on either side of the couple that just simply has money to go ahead and pay for their wedding. A lot of these couples are having to work hard to earn their own money to cover their wedding and things like that. And for them to pull that money out and just not even have a second thought about doing it, I think that is, that's true humanity that is helping not just a fellow human, but actually helping this poor defenseless dog that was out there probably cold, wet, couldn't really move because the back legs were broken in probably several pieces.
Starving, most likely.
Starving. And quite honestly, probably was looking at some point dying.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank goodness for them. I'm going to go hug my dog when I get home.
It does make you appreciate what you have.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And I implore anyone else to do the same.
Thank you so much for allowing us to be a part of your busy day. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe for more stories.
And as always, be good humans for F's sake.